Okay, Mandar, we are here live on Facebook. This is great. I've looked forward to this for a long, long time. So this is Bob Ferguson, and you have wandered on to Life with Bob, and tonight we are going to be talking with Mandar Apte. Mandar is a petroleum engineer, and he created some extraordinary activities at Shell Oil, and of late he has focused on, how should we say, bringing peace to earth. I think that's fair enough. So Mandar, it's fabulous having you with me here.
Thank you. You are a fellow pilgrim on the path, and as a seeker, I am always inspired by the activism that you have done. We are just following the footsteps that our teachers have shown us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I got to know Mandar through a mutual friend, and when I think he was still at Shell. So Mandar, help us out. What was your path? It was quite an extraordinary thing. You did something really exceptional in the Shell GameChanger program.
So my journey to Shell begins in 1999 when the oil price was $8 or $9 a barrel. And I was just lucky to get hired at Shell through the research aspect of my graduate studies. My first 6 years at Shell was as a petroleum engineer with the training that I had received in my graduate school in designing oil and gas platforms. Yep. And in specific chemical systems for these oil and gas platforms. So I was very clear that that will not be the future of Mandar Apte.
Your life, right? Find something a little bit different to do. Okay.
Yeah, and then at that time I had some kind of a tough situation with my then manager, who wanted me to go in the depth, and I said no, I want breadth. So that was, I would say, an interesting pivot in my life, that it's a decision that I made that I'm not going to be a technical expert in this line of work.
Right.
I would like to have an expanded view of the world of Shell for now. So I got a broadening assignment. They call it a broadening assignment. And it's a very interesting field of work that I, was given responsibility for. It's called competitive intelligence. So it's like CIA work, but from the public domain for the oil industry. So it was very interesting to, look at the wide world of Shell and how the energy industry really moves the whole world. Like, as a petroleum engineer, my job was just to extract the oil and produce the oil. But then the whole economy, the whole world is based on the oil economy.
Right.
And so that was quite an interesting assignment to learn, about new energy, the changing landscape, and the impact of that changing landscape on your business. So I got introduced to Michael Porter of the Harvard Business School and the 5 forces that every business has. So that was my first, I would say, 7, 8, 10 years at Shell. And again, I got lucky. I was hired by the GameChanger program. And my interview also was a very interesting interview by Russ Conser, who you know.
And now our mutual friend.
And, that was a very interesting time in my life. After spending 10 years at Shell, I had decided that I no longer want to be in the technical realm. I want to be in the people realm.
Yep.
And so somebody who I had taught meditation at Shell introduced me with Russ. And I remember that the questions that he asked me that day were mostly around my life outside of Shell. So at that time in 2009, I used to organize meditation workshops and teach meditation workshops to the soldiers that are coming from Iraq and Afghanistan with post-trauma stress.
Yep.
So in my evenings and weekends, I used to go to the Houston VA, the American Legion Post, and just give my time and hang out with, these brave men and women.
Yep.
And Russ asked me a few questions around like, why are you doing this? And what do you get out of this? So my response to him was, I get my joy back. I get my energy back when I go and help.
Got a little frozen internet. Mandar, we'll wait until you return to us.
Yeah, he connected the meditative aspect of that healing program to innovation. And
Now,
so
tell us a little bit, let's back up for a moment and tell us about the GameChanger program. What is the GameChanger program at Shell?
The GameChanger program is a well-kept secret. Not many people at Shell, even when I was at Shell for 10 years, I never heard about it. It's like an angel investing arm of Shell that invested Shell money into what is called angel investments. So these are pre-venture capital investments.
Right.
You can think of them as bets. Risk capital is another term used, because you are only investing in the idea, because there is no proof of concept. So you are investing in the person. And so
whoever has the idea, and this was across the board with all different kinds of energy, not just petroleum, but lots of different things, right?
Yeah, correct. So this could be any idea, absolutely any idea, as long as some relevance to Shell / it has some financial return that might be possible to Shell. So it's in that realm. It's any idea under the sun, as long as there is something in it for Shell. Okay. So Russ Conser, coming back to Russ, he told me that in the GameChanger practice, we give money to the entrepreneurs that put their idea to us. But these ideas are so early stage that 50, 60, 70% of them will fail. So we should also think about like the social and emotional resilience that an entrepreneur needs.
Yes.
And that's where he said innovation is a mental game, not a fully technical game.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, he said, why don't you design a program on innovation learning and use meditation as the chocolate, and the wrapper on the chocolate was innovation theory and innovation science.
Very good. Very
in
smart.
that interview, I told him that, frankly, I have done a graduate degree, but that's not innovative. That's not innovation and entrepreneurship.
Right.
So give me a few years, let me learn the jargons and the practice of this innovation world.
Right.
The chocolate I already know, so then I'll learn the wrapper.
You had to put the wrapper, learn the wrapper, right?
Learn the wrapper, right. So it took me 2 years, and my job was managing the GameChanger portfolio, as we call it, projects that invest in to their proof of concept. And I got introduced to a jargon that I did not know before. It's fast failing, and that for me was an interesting way of doing things. Like, don't waste your time, don't commit suicide, but design for failure.
Right, right.
And as an engineer, you want to do everything perfect, and here is field of work that says crash.
Right. Design so it crashes, but crash it fast, right?
Crash it fast. So, I was a meditation teacher even when I joined. I linked it to, an aspect of life which is called marriage. And people are looking for a soulmate, and, if you are able to find the fast failure to that relationship, then you will not
end up spending
20, 30 years with someone and then saying, oh, damn, who did I spend my life with?
Exactly. It's fail fast, fail forward, but fail fast.
Correct.
Until you find the right formula.
the right formula for it.
Where were you years ago, Mandar? I could have used that advice. But anyway, that's a whole other topic of conversation.
Yeah, so I was blessed to have this, person who saw that this employee has a passion outside of work.
Yeah.
And I told him that there are very few leaders like you because you are allowing me to bring my whole self at work. And, once you can find that in the staff that report to you or with your colleagues, life is just beautiful. Like your work life is just beautiful because they are looking at you for everything, not just as a petroleum engineer and how good as a petroleum engineer. So that was for me an insight of 21st century leadership management that Russ Concert taught me.
Yes.
And after 2 years, I was able to bring this program to life. I called it Empower. And I have a few slides that I can walk people through if you allow me.
Sure. So if you want to just screen share and bring them up, yeah, I'm sure people would be interested as to what you were actually teaching people or helping them through.
Can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay. So these days I get invited to give these presentations. So this one is I gave last week in Mumbai in a business school.
Okay.
So, running through some of the definitions that are online about innovation, it's on Google, when you look for the definition, it says the process of translating an idea or invention into a good or a service that creates value for which customers will pay. But that's where fundamentally I don't think that is the right definition, because if customers don't pay, if the service and the good that you created does not have value today, or even if the idea that you tried failed, all this is part of innovation also.
Right.
So that's where I think, we need to think of innovation as a mindset rather than a destination. And when you look at this, my personal experience with this is that it's more social and emotional rather than technical.
Right.
Yes, there is a technical aspect to it, but to hold that idea and to bring it to life, you need a lot of social and emotional skills.
Yes.
And that was, I would say, my contribution to the GameChanger program in Shell. Right. And I will share with you a couple of quotes that inspire me when I am feeling low.
Yep.
Because as an innovator, you are always working on things that people around you may not understand. So one such quote is this: that failed plans should not be interpreted as a failed vision. And then finally he says, be stubborn about the vision, but flexible about your plan. I think that's very beautiful. It's very well articulated.
Yes.
That you don't need to be judging yourself if you failed, because, to cook up something, you need different ingredients, and the time of your failure, maybe one ingredient did not exist in your, chef's skill pool, so that's where you failed. So you don't need to lose heart, but keep your vision alive.
Exactly.
The second thing let's not think of small things is what I tell people in MBA schools, especially if you are a young MBA just in your first or second year, that today in 2020, there is enough abundance everywhere. And let's find a goal that is not small. And of course, everyone defines their own big or smallness, but this just gets you thinking that what am I going to put my lifetime on?
Exactly.
And this third and final quote is for me as a corporate innovator who lived inside a large organization called Shell for quite a long time, like 17 years is a long time for spending in this bureaucratic large outfit. And so Taleb says you exist only if you are free to do things without an objective, no justification, and outside the dictatorship of someone else's narrative. I think that is where, I felt that all the life I spent at Shell, if I had not met somebody like Russ Concert,
Yes.
I would have left long time ago. I would have left long time ago.
Right.
So that gets you thinking around passion and innovation. So my experience with innovation in a large organization, be it a for-profit organization or a governmental or a non-governmental organization, that every organization needs these four unique aspects to make the innovation thrive. The first is the system and the structure that tells the organization that innovative thinking is allowed, and this is the structure, and followed by the structure, this is the process for which we have an investment arm, we have ideas, we'll celebrate failure. Like all these are part of that system structure process.
Right.
But the softer aspect of this is the leadership support, where the leader at the top, my experience through Shell is the leaders at the top are not leaders because they were innovative.
Yes.
They are leaders because they had a good boss, they got along with their boss, they did their projects under budget, under time, and they kept the ship
Yep.
sane and going forward.
Yep.
So what is missing is the leadership support for innovators.
Right.
And that means we will have to train the leaders of organizations in what the hell is innovative thinking, and what, if it is based on that Google definition that if you have a business model and the customer pays, then that's not the the education on innovation that currently leaders are missing. And now I'm speaking from both my experience in a for-profit organization and these days when I'm dealing with governmental organizations like police departments, for example.
Wow. Yep.
And the fourth and the most important aspect is the rebels, the people who are misfits within the organizations. They need to learn how to be tempered. And by that, I mean, follow the organization,
Yep.
rational thinking. At the same time, don't give up your irrational misfit behaviors. So that's a very beautiful, like, fine line between be a rebel, but be tempered.
Yep.
So this is from, my experience. Like if you have all this in place, then you really have something where innovation will thrive. And then people ask me about my game changer experience. So I say that there are four things that make game changer for me a very beautiful outfit within a large structure called Shell. The first one is independent decision making. Like the decision to invest or not invest is not given to the subject matter expert, but the team makes that decision.
Right.
The second is borrowing the Silicon Valley jargons and portfolio approach. There are certain projects you are doing for today's Shell, certain projects that you are doing for tomorrow's Shell. So it's a portfolio, not just in technical domains, but also in the which time frame is this going to be applicable
Right.
for. And then the third most important bit is failure is okay, and the game changer program takes ownership for every failure. And that is a liberating thing for any technical expert. Like they are being judged for their success.
Right.
So when they know that the failure is based on and will be taken by this separate entity, it frees them up from giving their real opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, what I feel really blessed, that I was introduced to this concept of bring novel ideas to their proof of concept.
Yep.
And the example Russ gives is that of Casper the ghost. That, Casper is the idea, and because it's a ghost, no, the whole world is not loving Casper. In fact, everybody is scared of Casper.
Right.
So that's the truth of every new idea, is it's scary.
Yep.
And you have a lot of responsibility now on your shoulder to select some of those ideas and give enough money to that entrepreneur to buy a pair of jeans for Casper from a cheap Walmart rather than Macy's or Nordstrom.
Right.
So
Minimum viable product.
quick, cheap, dirty experiments, MVPs,
Yep.
and the proof of concept. And proof of concept for me also is like beauty. It's in the eyes of the beholder, right? Whatever is proof of concept for you may not be for me, and
Right.
that's where the soft side of, do I know Bob, and do I hang out with Bob, and will Bob understand my proof of concept? Like, that's where it becomes very social and emotional.
Right.
I'm finally going to share my insight on, why organizations need to focus on culture for innovation, because people think that they tried it last year, and because it failed, I was not given the credit. In fact, I got a stick on my hand, so I don't get paid to fail, so I'm not going to try anything new. And the biggest one for me is like a mismatch of your passion with your work.
Right.
Like, why should I do it? This is not really my passion. My passion is somewhere else, but I'm just here to do my 8 to 5, get a paycheck and leave. And that's not a very healthy sign of a thriving innovative culture.
Right.
So that's where I tell senior leaders why they need to focus on the softer side of innovation, which is building the mental and the social resilience of employees.
Right.
And I'll finish with my final slide. Is I took an interview with my meditation teacher, and as I was building the program at Shell, the innovation learning program, my meditation teacher is a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, a guru of India, and a global humanitarian leader. His name is Sri Ravi Shankar. He told me some very interesting. He gave me a personal, like, I'm so blessed, personal tutorial on innovation thinking. It requires you to have a new idea, which comes only when you have new information.
Right.
So for you to get new information today, you need a lateral network, because traditional information innovation doesn't flow. But if you have access to lateral channels, you might have access to information that you would never come across. The second thing is, just information is not enough. You need to have interest in that field of work. That is where your energy, prana, whatever you call it, that your prana needs to be high, your energy needs to be high, so that with that information you can do something. And the third most important wheel in this cogwheel is that intuitive gut feeling that this is my idea. Like, that is not, you're not confused. And that is where a meditation practice helps. Because
Yes.
with that meditation practice, you are very clear about what you are going to do. And then you are clear also in your perception of feedback of people, your observation of data that you might miss out, and most importantly, assimilation of both failure as well as data to pivot into something new. So this, as a mechanics, I feel is very important for innovators to ponder on, and for organizations to also then create systems and processes that are aligned with this. So coming back, I will now stop sharing, and here I'm back on with you.
Yeah. Very good.
I was able to teach about 2,000 people how to meditate at Shell in less than about 2 years.
Wow.
And that was because my passion was kindled by Russ concept. And I received an award from Accenture and Ashoka Foundation
Yes.
on intrapreneurship. That is when we got introduced, I think.
Yes.
It
Yes.
was in 2012, 2013.
Right. Right.
And the founder of Ashoka has also been to India many times. And he started this social entrepreneur group. But the award he had coined was intrapreneur.
Yes.
And these are like entrepreneurial thinkers inside a large organization. So that's when I got introduced to this concept. Very fascinating. Like, I was always an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And having that recognition to bring this meditative program at a large oil company, because when this was Shell definitely is not a Google or a Bay Area company.
Right. Right.
So to bring meditative practices at work, I would say it's amazing what came through my work.
Yes.
Because when people meditate, like I remember one employee, one friend, she quit her job because in this program people are not only meditating, but they are reflecting on the wrapper of innovative thinking, and that includes, like, you start with your passion. And she emailed me a few months after the workshop. She said, Mandar, thank you, I have quit my job because that was not my passion, and I felt like I could. So sometimes people think like that's not a success, but I think that is a measure of success, that having her
Yes.
discover herself
Huge success.
is a huge success. And it's also a win for Shell, because you are freeing up one person who is not committed to your team, your work, and instead of just filling space,
Yep.
they're telling you that, hey, this is not for me.
No, it's so true. It's so true. Well, that absolutely beautiful. So let's transition from that whole world. A number of years ago, you transitioned, you graduated from Shell into a whole different line of work. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was in 2016. 2016, the US went through this election cycle.
Yes.
And I was on a vacation in India. I was still Shell GameChanger. I was still doing some amazing work, some experiments, investments. And I came across Dr. Martin Luther King's autobiography. And I was blown away by one of his chapters of about 30 pages. The title of the chapter is Pilgrimage to India. And so, I asked some of my American friends that, hey guys, do you know this man had gone to India? And nobody knew.
Yeah.
And then I asked, do you know he was inspired by Gandhi? That everybody knew.
Yeah, but they didn't make the connection that he had actually gone to India.
Correct. So that opened a can of worms for me. And I remember I spent the whole day reading about Martin Luther King Jr.'s little known trip to India. And it's fascinating what he has done in India. He was traveling for 5 weeks. So there I checked whether did he go by boat? Like, why did it take him 5 weeks? He didn't go by boat. He went by plane. He spent 5 weeks in India. And that was for me like, wow, 5 weeks.
Yeah. Wow.
And the second insight I had was Gandhi had died when Martin Luther King Jr. went to India. So that day, I was this fire. I had this fire inside me that, wow, MLK was transformed by India, not by Gandhi.
Yes, by India. Yeah, because
By
Gandhi.
India.
Yeah.
And so I said, wow, if that Indian culture, the people, the wisdom is still alive, then America can get another North Star. Where are we going?
Right.
Yeah, so I ended up producing a documentary film in that 1 month holiday that I was in India with 6 complete strangers. I didn't know them from Adam before. And I was honored to, you know, take the parents from the Sandy Hook School,
Yes.
Black Lives activists, and a former gang member from Los Angeles. And I hosted them in India for 10 days. And we became very good friends. We had an excellent, amazing time. But from that day, from the day I read the book to finishing the film was 1 month.
Wow. I didn't. I knew the story, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So that is my, I would say, hypothesis that non-violence, which is, you know, Martin Luther King and Gandhi are known for this non-violence.
Yes.
But non-violence is nothing but love. So Martin Luther King Jr. brought the message of love from India. So the title of the film that I coined was From India with Love.
Shall I show the trailer?
Yes, please.
Good.
Aimed at elementary school children. There are 27 victims, 20 children, 7 adults.
Violent weekend in Chicago has left 11 people dead and 60 wounded in shootings across the city.
Then at 8:45, just a mile from City Hall, shots ring out.
The person who has influenced my life in terms of action more than anybody is Mahatma Gandhi.
The fear that I will bury one of my sons. Fear.
A kid who had a bad childhood, who was in a lot of pain, and wanted the whole world to feel that pain.
One of my children dying, being brutally murdered.
Being ready means spaciousness to breathe, to slow down.
That's the rebirth, baby. So you come back to life.
Choose love.
Wow. Absolutely beautiful. Let's click out of that and stop share. Okay. So Mandar, that was pretty amazing. So from that time forward, you have developed quite an extraordinary program. You have brought police chiefs and mayors, and you're now working in LA. Tell us what you have wrought in the last 3 years.
You know, Bob, I don't want to say I have brought, because it's not I, it's something else that has taken over. Because, you know, even this film, I don't think I made the film, it just happened.
Yeah,
I cannot take credit for it because
I understand.
firstly, it's the 6 people in the film. I honor their trust. I honor their humanity. I honor their commitment. And the film is now available on Amazon and Amazon Prime. So it's been screened in about 20 cities. I have now created a very interesting peace education guide. And this is Gandhi's 150th birth year.
Huh?
So I want to commit this year to doing something for the school violence in the US. So, instead of having a gun in every school,
Yes.
we should aspire for a yoga mat in every school, right? So the project is called Gandhi 150. And the idea is to screen the film in 1,000 colleges and school educational institutions this year.
Wonderful.
So anybody in your network, they are welcome to just, think about their own child's school or a neighborhood school and just bring this program. It's a 1-hour program that anybody can facilitate. You watch the film and you ponder on certain questions. And then you have a short meditative silence to, reinvigorate your own commitment to peace. So that's one commitment that I will be putting my time this year on. And 1,000 points of light. I think that's the goal for 50 states. So, And then, like you said, I've taken about 100 leaders to India.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because you took police personnel and politicians and mayors. What was the result of that? What kinds of things came from that experience for them?
Yeah, so the film produces this interest that, hey, I want to go. And so last 2 years, I've taken about 100 leaders. Last trip was 34 pilgrims.
Wow.
17 police officers and police chiefs from NYPD, LAPD, Miami, Washington, D.C., Brazil, Australia, and 17 members of the communities of color here in the U.S., including former Compton gang members, Chicago gang members. Like, that was an interesting experience for me to hold the space.
Yes.
34 unique leaders. They are committed to peace. They are committed to promoting safety and public health. And it was a fascinating experience because we brought them in touch with Indian police chiefs and peace activists from all over India. So about 150 people came together on Gandhi's birthday last year.
Wonderful. And
brainstormed, different ideas to different aspects of violence and how to promote peace. Coming from that journey, the police chief of Los Angeles, he gave me a nice pin and honored me with a badge and had sent
well, whatever kid wants is a police badge, right?
Police badge, yeah. Right. And he had sent his a commander from the LAPD.
Yeah.
And based on their experience, the LAPD chief and assistant chief, they said they cannot send all of LA to India. Can you bring India to LA?
A reasonable question.
Yeah, very great question, and for me, a forcing function.
Yeah.
So last year I relocated to LA, and I asked them to give me the worst of the worst neighborhood in Los Angeles. As you might know, that this was the gang capital of the world.
Yes.
Maybe it still is. And there is a cost to violence. There is a calculator online. You can Google cost to violence Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
For every homicide, murder, the city of Los Angeles taxpayer dollar spent is $1 million.
Wow.
And there are anywhere between 300 to 1,000 murders, depending on which data you get, etc., etc. About 500 murders for sure. And that's
$500 million that could be allocated elsewhere.
Correct. So that is why I moved here. And what we did was we reimagined peace and nonviolence by inviting LAPD police officers, former gang members, gang leaders, and the community members, the regular members of that community, of this neighborhood called Harvard Park. And I created a 2-month boot camp on peace and nonviolence using, of course, meditation training.
Right. Get everyone settled in themselves.
Yeah, because, you know, unless there is inner peace, just talking about peace has no meaning.
No meaning, yes.
And as I have gone into this peace rabbit hole, the tension between communities of color and police is everywhere.
Yes.
And, you know, as a peace activist, of course, we have to focus on social justice. Like, you know, there has to be justice, but justice without that inner peace is not sustainable, and it's the need of the hour, that inner peace dimension.
Yes.
So by putting this program together, it was also the proof of concept, like an experiment,
Yep.
on 3 aspects, Bob. One was, can breathing and meditation training help the police officer? So if you think about the police job, it's not a very easy job.
No.
It's, you know, strenuous job. They see all kinds of things. And so the post-trauma stress, which the veterans are going through, I think the police officer also has this post-trauma stress phenomenon going on. So that was the first, like, will breathing, yoga, meditation training help improve the officer health and well-being? The second is, can seemingly opposite sides, regular community, gang members, and cops, can they come together with the common mission of promoting peace? Right? So that's the fine line that we were holding.
Yep.
Is we are not here to argue, we are not here to, you know, debate, we are not here to
lay blame
lay blame. We are only here to learn how to heal ourselves. And if you like this methodology of healing, can you become the ambassador of promoting this way of healing and promoting peace? And the third and the most humbling aspect of this work was training the former gang member into becoming a meditation teacher. And the receptivity and, you know, the dedication that I saw was just phenomenal. I am so inspired by these people. They are so committed to their community, their neighborhood, and I'm just blessed that the LAPD gave me that space. The citizens of the South LA community gave me that space, because I'm not from Los Angeles. I lived in Houston 17 years, and I spent 6 months in LA last year. I trained about 75 participants now.
Yep.
And we created a new initiative under the Art of Living Foundation called Cities for Peace. So that's, you know, that's, yes. One second.
Sure.
Not right now. I don't know where they are. Sorry. Oh, what happened? Okay. One second, Bob. There is somebody needs an emergency.
Sure. You go right ahead. So, folks, this is really quite extraordinary. For those who may not know, that I became a teacher of transcendental meditation in 1972, and I taught TM full time. And one of my assignments, or one of the assignments I gave myself, is I actually innovated a program when I was 26 years old at a maximum security prison in Massachusetts that actually became the subject of a doctoral thesis that effects of which rattled around the world. So I'm quite intimately familiar with the impact of this transcending process, this settling process, however one makes that happen, whatever techniques one uses, is extraordinarily important. I could go on and on. I don't know how long I'll have the stage here with Mandar going and helping out, but it was really exceptional. We got some extraordinary results over quite a number of years. So, you know, I think as we look at the world, and anyone who's watched my Facebook feed knows that I make commentaries, sometimes accurately, maybe sometimes not, but always in accordance with the way I see things, what's happening in the outside world. But my view is that working on the outside world, working on the levels of form and phenomena and social activity and action outside is, without doing something on the inside, it's like trying to keep boils from coming up on your body, but you haven't cleaned your blood. If you have infection in your blood, then the boils will come out on your body. It just is the way it is. And so whatever it is, however it is that we find a way to clear and clean the inside of us, that we must do. Because there's no amount of laws, there's no amount of sanction, there's no amount of debate, there's no amount of political back and forth that's really going to solve the fundamental problems, particularly the problems that are wicked problems, like climate change and that kind of thing, where acknowledging that is an existential threat to how each one of us, including myself, live our lives. We drive our cars. So in order to solve some of these very, very, very sticky problems, we need to create a lot more inner silence, a lot more inner peacefulness than we have right now, if for no other reason than to simply allow ourselves to experience our own potential and not get caught in our thoughts and not get caught in the things that we know. What did Will Rogers said? He said, it's not the things that are wrong that we believe that harm us. It's the things that we believe are right but ain't so harm us. And so the capacity, as Mandar, I'm sure, has been experiencing with these folks here, the capacity for people in very, very opposite kinds of situations in life, you know, the gang leaders and the policemen, to come together to create something really, really exceptional in terms of each one of them operating in their inner domain and then working together to find a way to create a more peaceful environment in the surroundings. So I am, let's see, what time do we have? We have 8:49, so we have a few minutes left, and if Mandar is able to come back, then we will continue. If not, then we may go ahead and wrap things up here, and we'll have Mandar back on. So, in fact, you know what? Since it is 8:49, why don't we do that? Because I don't know how. Oh no! Okay, here we go. This is great. So
yeah, there was a lady who had an accident.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you were there to help. And I filled the space as best I could with a little bit of my experience with meditation and doing a prison project in a maximum security prison and seeing extraordinary things happen. So we've got about 10 minutes left, 5-10 minutes left. So Mandar, for the people who are watching this, what's the takeaway? How can we use what your experience has been at Shell, what your experience is in LA? What are the takeaways for the person who isn't going to necessarily be doing the work you're doing, but they want to become more peaceful themselves? They want to become part of the solution rather than the problem.
You know, it's like after 17 years of a privileged life at Shell, Martin Luther King's book took me in this rabbit hole.
Mm.
And I am trying to come out of that rabbit hole a little bit, because there's a corporate innovation professional that also wants to have his entity.
Ah, yes. Okay. So you got these two elements going back and forth.
Yeah. So now what I will be putting my time on in 2020 is the proof of concept of Cities for Peace is out there. Like there's a nice video, testimonials. So if anybody wants to bring that thinking, that program in their city, they don't have to think. The proof of concept is there. So all you need is an enlightened police chief or a mayor or an organizational civic organization that is wanting to promote public safety, public health, public good. That they can reach out to me. I'll do my best to help bring that program to life in the need of that city, for example. Where I put my time on proactively is to think about the business for peace.
Yes.
Right. So that is what I've been thinking last 3 years. And just like there is a business for war and a business for drugs,
Yes.
there is a business for peace. And that is where anybody who is listening, if they can just meditate or think about this, like, can peace be profitable?
Yes.
And for that, you need to think about peace is not just no violence, no war. So that means peace is everything. And so a lack of X, Y, or Z creates conditions for violence.
Yes.
So can we bring corporate business entrepreneurial solutions to the lack? Right? And then you are thinking about entrepreneurial thinking for a business model for peace.
Well, it's a really beautiful thing. And I think somewhat by analogy, when a person says, you ask them, am I healthy? Then many people will answer from the perspective, well, I don't have some disease process, active disease process that's happening right now. But health is not merely the lack of an active disease process. Health is a bubbling quality of vitality and blissfulness and power and enthusiasm and love, all of which comes from a healthy mind. And you know, and I know, and many other people know, or at least we believe that we know, that that quality of peacefulness of the mind does come from many things. It comes from exercise. It comes from diet. You eat a bad diet, it's very hard to have a settled mind. If you never exercise, it's very hard to be peaceful. But that particular quality that happens when the mind settles down, whether we're using this technique or that technique, any bona fide technique which allows the mind to settle down into itself, into its own native silence, that's what we're after. Because that is the genesis. That is the genesis of all of what you're talking about. A choppy mind just doesn't have the capacity to generate peace. A quiescent mind that then comes out from that quietness with dynamism, that does it. At least that's my experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I mean, when I listen to Sri Ravi Shankar speak or Maharishi speak, and now you speak, the definition of health in Sanskrit is swasthya. And swasthya means to be established in the self.
Yes.
But this is not common knowledge out there, right? So I understand what you're saying. I've heard it. I understand it. Turbulence in my mind leads to violence in my mind, violence in my words, in actions. But somehow the people who are, in that meditative seeking space, I discovered that, you can teach meditation to privileged shell people, which I did.
Yes.
But there is such a dire need to bring this knowledge of inner world, inner peace to the communities that really need it. And so you asked me what I want to ask. Like, if people on your network know victims of violence,
Yes.
or perpetuators of violence. I think that is where this knowledge is really needed.
Very much so.
And we have shown already that in the gangs in LA, there are people who want to stand up for peace. Same thing for schools, like going back to the question, can anybody today guarantee that the school incident will not happen in my child's school?
Yes. No one can guarantee that.
Now I want you to reflect what I just said. I just said school incident. But the way we are programmed in this country, the incident in Bob's mind automatically went to the negative incident.
Yeah.
And that is such a sad state of affairs, right? So anybody who is listening to this conversation, if you want to be selfish, that, hey, I need to bring positive vibrations in my child's school, then reach out. Let's do something together.